So let me share you a few things that has worked for me. It is still work in progress. We are still working on it to create a perfect organization. As long as I'm alive, that will be my quest. I really want to conquer that monster and create a perfect organization where everything is in synchrony, everything works well, everything works like a well-oiled engine. Because any organization or anything, it's as strong as the weakest link. So even in organization this vast, if one of the link is weak, the entire organization's strength is only as strong as that weakness. And I constantly keep thinking, how do I make the weakest link stronger and stronger and stronger so the entire organization stays strong? And that's maybe a discussion for some other day. How do you make your organization strong? But let's talk today about what are the methods of managing people. There are, essentially speaking, two ways of managing people. You either manage an individual by tasks, or you manage individual by performance. And for a simplicity purpose, we'll just say you manage people by the number of hours they put in, and you manage people by what result they produce. I don't know that there is any other way to truly manage people in an organization. Because the moment you start measuring hours on an individual and what they're doing each hour, the burden of what the outcome is falls on you. Because now you're telling that individual, go do this task, it takes 2 hours, and now you judge that individual. If the person takes 20 hours to do the two-hour job, either in his training or that's not the right task that was given to that individual, and we need to really find out what that individual is good for and just give that task that it does in the optimal time frame. But the outcome responsibility is still yours, because you are designing the task for the individual, you are telling the individual, you are telling the individual how to do it, and then whatever comes out, that's what you get. And you should not basically judge individual. That's not how the systems are designed. Hourly employees get paid hourly. Whatever production is, that production is your issue. That's your problem. The second group of people that can be managed is by performance. And there you cannot measure them by hours, because that doesn't work. I'll give you a very simple example of in my life, and I'm sure when Mike hears this or watches this video, he's going to get a kick out of this. But Mike used to be our CEO of the medical business. Mike was recently hired initially. He ended up staying with me for a decade plus. But when he was recently hired, I was making my rounds in the office, and I went to Mike's office. And Mike was reading a newspaper. I think it was Wall Street Journal. And I was shocked. This is the first day of this individual in a new job, and he's reading a newspaper in his office. So forget about the multi-million-dollar business that he was supposed to be managing. So I was very upset. Mike was actually hired through a management company that has actually purchased our operating portion of the medical business. So I called the chief of the management company, and I said, "Tom, what are you doing?" And Tom said, "Well, it's too early in the day for you to ask me that question, but how can I help you?" And I asked Tom, I said, "You put this new guy in my practice to manage, and the guy is reading newspaper in the office." So he said, "Well, why don't you just talk to him, and versus me jumping in the middle. He may have an explanation, and if that doesn't get resolved, then I'll be glad to manage it. So I called Mike in my office and I said, Mike, this is your first day and I'm watching you reading newspaper. He said, I'm sorry, sir, it won't happen again. And he just left. And a day or two later, he came to me and says, can I talk to you? And I said, sure. And he said, listen, I didn't want to argue with you the very first day when I joined this organization, but I just want you to know, I just want to know for my own benefit, what do you expect out of me as a CEO of your company? And I said, well, I would like you to improve my bottom line take-home pay. He said, okay, that makes sense. How much improvement would you like to see? So I said, if you increase by 15%, I'll be extremely happy. He said, okay, that's also doable. I've reviewed the financials, etc. Now, let me ask you one more question. If I do this particular improvement in your take-home pay by 15%, can I run this company the way I want to run it? And if I read the newspaper during the office hours, would it bother you? So I said, of course not. I mean, end result is the 15% increase in my pay. So if you can accomplish that, I don't care what you do. In fact, the reason I'm telling you not to read newspaper because I'm concerned that if you are reading newspaper and not paying attention to the business, then I won't be making any increase in the pay. In fact, I'm worried that I may not even take home what I'm taking home today. He said, I hear you. And he just left. About 2 months or so went by. And then one fine morning, I'm just in the office again, and I go by Mike's office at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, and I don't see him in the office. So I said, what happened? So I just picked up the phone and I called Mike and I said, Mike, where are you? Well, he says, well, I'm on the golf course. I said, wait a second, I'm working hard here and you're on the golf course. So I was really shocked to hear that. So I said, but Mike, why are you not at the office? He said, sir, can I just ask you one question? I said, sure. He said, have you seen your financial statements that I sent you? I've been sending you for the past 2 months, and it has gone up more than 20%. And I said, are you telling me that I'm taking 20% more money home than I used to take it before you joined the company? And he said, certainly. Now, if that's okay with you, I need to go back to my golf round, and I would like to hang up. What can I say? I said, sure. So these are the group of people you can only manage by performance. And they have their own way of doing things that does not match yours. I have never figured out how to play golf and create a performance-based excellence. I always have believed that if that golf time, if I could just keep working more, maybe that 25% will become 35%. I don't know that that's how it works or not. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Maybe by playing golf, and I'm just using golf as a metaphor or an example, that your mind is someplace else, you are refreshed, and when you do the next job, it is much more powerful. I don't know the answer to that, but the point I'm trying to emphasize today is that people who like to be managed by performance, they don't like to be micromanaged. They don't like to be managed any other way, and your best bet is to leave them alone. On the other hand, people who are paid hourly and people who can only take orders, I call it order taking. Who can take your orders and just execute the orders the way they know the best, those people need to be managed differently. They need to be spoon-fed the exact process of what you expect, how it to play out, and ultimately the performance becomes your responsibility. What happens after you give them the task, if you've given them the process, you are measuring them by hours, it's your responsibility. So as a manager, you must understand the person who you are managing, what group they belong to. Do they belong to the order taking, the task-based hourly employee, or you want an executive who truly takes responsibility of the outcome? All you have to tell them is what outcome you need, and then they truly make it happen. Take the example of this particular presentation. Micah, with our marketing company, has taken full responsibility of this production. As busy as I am truly making money for the company, this particular production doesn't have any monetary value. So in my order of preferences, it doesn't fit anywhere. It always at the bottom of my priorities, but it's very important to me. I think there are certain principles that I've learned that I want to share with the rest of the world, and I think they work. And I think I have a very unique ability to present those thoughts and ideas in a very acceptable way, which I have learned by talking to my patients. My patients have loved me, as far as I know, with my presentation, my ability to dumb down a very complex matters to a state where they can easily understand and relate to me. And that also I learned from my bosses all these years that I trained in my medical school. So I would like to share some of the things that I have enjoyed in my life to all of you, but it's always at the bottom of my list. So person like Micah, who does not need any more management. So if I go after her and I check with her how many hours she worked and what exactly was she doing Monday morning at 10 o'clock, that relationship won't work. And that relationship won't even produce the results that I'm looking for, because how many times I can ask her every hour what was she doing and what am I going to do with what she's going to tell me. But if I say, Micah, make this usable for the people who are going to be benefited by this, then it is her cup of tea. However she wants to do it, as long as she gets me there, it's job done. Whether she does it in 2 minutes or 2,000 hours, does it matter to me? Not to me. It matters to her. How much time she puts in, how she does it, what she does it. And just to give you an example, I've been trying to do this presentation and I've been trying to get my thoughts on paper for last, at least, the idea has been decades old, but it has matured with time. And for the past 5 years, I've tried several people to implement these ideas and thoughts and bring it to life like what you are saying today. And it failed miserably because the people whom I entrusted to take this as a performance basis and not on an hourly basis or task basis or orderly basis weren't the right people. Or more importantly, I wasn't the right guy to assess them. People are always right. It is always you who are assessing wrong. So I should have assessed those people much more carefully over the past 5 years, and I should have said, this person is an order taker, and I don't have time to give orders. I only have time to give wishes, and then convert those wishes to orders, process, execute, and make an end product that is truly worthwhile. That is something that I just don't have time, energy, belief, understanding, or knowledge to put it together. I'm a medical doctor who has learned to do business. I've spent decades learning medicine. I've spent decades learning businesses. I've made so many mistakes in businesses. I've made some good decisions, sometimes accidentally, sometimes being lucky, sometimes intentional, sometimes with good people, but ultimately has resulted into some successful projects. This entire audio video business, this entire social media business, this entire way of presenting myself to the world and trying to help the world, that's not my cup of tea. I cannot be an order giver. I cannot be a task giver. I just don't have that expertise. So let's find that person who has that expertise. It took me 5 years, multiple failures, but I'm very happy to sit here and say production is here. And again, it proves my basic point. Find an individual, find company, find to figure out how to outsource, either outsource in terms of performance based or outsource in terms of order taking, task taking, and then manage that individual in terms of hours. Essentially, you take the responsibility of outcome on your shoulders when you're on this side. Essentially, you are giving the responsibility of the outcome on the other side when you're finding people on performance. I hope this episode helped you today of figuring out A, what are the processes of managing people, B, find the people and put them in the right category, and 3, don't be afraid to make mistakes. I've been in this business of hiring and firing people for more than 30 years now, and let me tell you, there is no exact science to it. I am probably the world's worst hiring guy, but I'm probably the world's best firing guy. But we'll save that for the next episode. Great to see you guys today, and hope I brought some value to you today.